Season 7, Sports on the Hill podcast, and CP3 is back in the building. You see, we got RobbieG already set up in the man cave, ready to kick this show off. RobbieG, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Got a little, your feed froze up on my feed, so I got to do some technical things here. So I'll let you go ahead and start things up. It's been a while since I've been on, so my laptop acting crazy.
Oh yeah, no, I totally understand. We are live here on Facebook Live, also on Carol's feed as well. I'm just double checking to make sure that everything is going smoothly. We're live on Twitch as well. We're celebrating tonight 7 years, which is hard to believe, Carol, that we have been able to do this for so long. A couple of weeks ago, we were celebrating 300 episodes, and tonight this is episode 303. We've got a full show tonight. We've got a bunch of guests going to join us for our hockey segment in just a second. Carol, am I coming through? Can you hear me okay on your end?
Yeah, I'm hearing you good, but your feed is freezing up. I'm not sure if that's me or you, but give me a second, because yeah.
Yeah, you seem to be. Yeah, you seem to be coming through on my end, okay, which is at least that part is good. But I obviously want to come through on yours as well. Should I bring in? Oh, well, I want to thank Champ for joining us live on the Twitch channel. He's celebrating 15 months with us as a Twitch subscriber. So I really appreciate that, Champ, as always. And Champ will be on a little bit later with us. Tina French just also joined, and they're celebrating 7 months with us. So I really appreciate both of those subscriptions and being a part of this team and this adventure over the last couple of days or a couple of months rather, and appreciate you both so much. And we'll have a lot of awesome guests coming on. Carol, I'm just wondering, would it be easier? Do you want to pop off the Zoom and pop back on to see if that fixes the video glitch on your end?
No, it's good now. It's good. I did some changes, and I didn't reboot, so I had to redo some things, but it looked like we're good to go now.
Sounds good. Well, I'm going to introduce our special guests, and then I'm going to have Gil talk a little bit about their show that they did over the weekend, which I thought was phenomenal. And then we will also bring in our special guest for this episode as well after that. But first we'll bring in Gil. How are you doing tonight, Gil?
Pretty good, Robbie. Happy 7th anniversary.
Thank you.
What's going on, Gil?
Hey, CP3. Yes, I understand traditional anniversary gift is something copper and wool. So maybe one of the old Caps jerseys that had the copper coloring in it. I don't know. Maybe get one of those, maybe.
Yeah, I need to get my Tom Wilson jersey out. It's got a bit of the copper color and on the new retro reverse.
I'm still glad you got your Wilson jersey before I did, Robbie.
I know. I'm sorry.
I'm mad about that.
I know. I wanted you to get one first. I waited a couple of years.
I know, I know. So I can't be that mad. I can't. And it was a retro, so I understand.
Yeah, I had to grab it when I saw it at Cap One. Yeah. You never know if those are going to just disappear. And
I'm not mad at you, but I'm still mad at you.
Right, I understand. So Gil had this really wonderful guest on this weekend, or in this previous podcast. I wanted him just to quickly for 2 seconds let people know about that, because I think it was one of the best shows that they've ever done. Anna's still feeling a little under the weather, so that's why she's not joining us tonight. Although she was able to be a part of that show, so I'm happy that she was able to do that with you. But Gil, for those people who don't know who Sammy is, will you just let people know who she is and what you guys were able to talk about briefly? I'm going to grab some water. I'm also going to share the podcast to a couple of Caps groups while you do the intro, and then we'll bring in our next special guest right after that.
Yeah, thanks, Robbie. So we do the annual Women's History Month every March, and to honor women who contribute to sports and mainly hockey. So this past week we had on Sammy Silber, who covers the Capitals through the Washington Hockey Now website, and we post her articles a lot. And well, right now the Post doesn't have a regular beat writer, so she's probably it. If you want the everyday beat coverage as of right now, other than her and Tarek El-Bashir, of course, at The Athletic. Right now, I think those are really right now, those are your only two everyday writers following the Caps. So it was an honor and a pleasure to have her on. As we tried to do, Anna and I, we had a great conversation with her. I had a ton of questions for her because I've been following her for a while, but you know, it was really fun and nice talking to her. She's really down to earth, as you'll hear, just kind of a regular person. She plays the game, so she knows, of course, she knows what she's talking about. And yeah, it was just real fun conversation, and just really happy that she made time with us. And so that was, we only go over one game because we tried to make more time for her, and that was the game that was just played that day. That was the game against the Wild. But yeah, that's what the episode was, as a nice, hour-long conversation or thereabouts with her, and how she got into hockey and what she thinks of the women's game, to name a few topics that we covered. So.
Yeah, it's a tough one to cover during that Wild game. I definitely want to talk about that one because I haven't got to see a lot of Caps games, but I saw that one, and I definitely want to get your guys' opinion on that third period, especially.
Yeah. So what I think we're going to do tonight, we're going to bring in our special guest in just a second, but we'll have Gil go through the scoring real quickly in the breakdown, and then I will ask, when Gil can give his quick thought on it after he gives the scoring update, and then I'll ask CP3 and C4 some questions about each of the games. And if you didn't get a chance, Carol, you can punt, obviously, for whatever games that you don't know as much about, and we can we'll sort of do a group think, and we'll get through all the games. I know that I missed big parts of it with family obligations and stuff like that, but between the four of us, we all saw parts of the games. I know that Cheryl Ann actually got to watch a bit of one of the games live, so we'll get to hear a little bit of that as well. So with that, we'll bring in Cheryl Ann Forrester live on the camera and on the mic, and yeah, we hear
there
you.
it is.
There it is. Welcome in, C4, as we affectionately call you in the podcast world. You're wearing your reverse retro.
I am, and even though he's been pissing me off lately,
you're wearing the koozie. Yes,
I'm wearing koozie.
Hey, we're twins. I got my koozie on too.
There we go.
That's awesome. All right. Well, without too much further ado, Gil, will you break down the scoring of the first game of the week? So we're going to go back in time a little bit, and then we'll talk a little bit about that some more.
So are we talking about the Wild game now, or?
We're going to go all the way back to what was the first game? It was the Rangers game.
The Rangers game. Okay. Yeah, that was the one that had the dual coverage, as it were, with the Big City Greens for Disney Plus. I don't know if anybody caught that part of it, but that was kind of fun. Took the sting out of this one. Yeah, you'll find a pattern to a lot of these games, and this one fit that. Very slow start by our Caps. Took a while for them to get into it, unfortunately. And often foe of ours, Mika Zibanejad, started the scoring 4:09 in the first, put the Caps behind immediately. Then Nicholas Aube-Kubel tied it at 14:29 with his fourth. Protas and Matt Irwin with the assists on that one. That was kind of a surprise. And then Zibanejad again put them back in the lead less than 20 seconds later at 14:45. Panarin and Igor Shesterkin on the assist, long pass by him. And then Patrick Kane got, I think that was his first or second goal with the Rangers after the trade, put the Rangers up 3-1, pardon me, to end the period. And then Jacob Trouba put the Rangers up 4-1. That would be the game winner. Matt Irwin would get another one at 12:08 to pull them close. Sandin with another assist on that one. And then Nick Dowd made it interesting that halfway through the third, 11:48, with a wrist shot past Shesterkin, who would, pardon me, to make it 4-3. So it did get a little interesting towards the end. And then after the Caps had pulled the goalie, unfortunately, Jimmy Vesey locked it up with an empty netter at 17:49, and that pretty much locked it up there. So Caps came on slow, but finished fairly well. And again, you'll find that as a pattern to just about all of the games this week. And yeah, just one of those things.
Right. So I'll just start off by saying I thought that the Disney coverage was fascinating. I didn't know what to expect from that. If people didn't know what they did for this one, since ESPN is owned by Disney, they actually put it on the Disney Channel in addition. And it was almost like watching a video game, but it was like just about 30 seconds delayed, but it was the exact same game, but if it was cartoon characters playing it. So I thought it was really interesting. I got to watch it with my son. He found it awesome. It was he loves Nintendo Switch, and they were the ones who were the sponsors for it. So there's Nintendo Switch stuff everywhere. And for kids, I think this is a brilliant way to get them into hockey. I mean, it was unfortunate that we lost the game, but I was super happy to sort of see something a little different. You know, I've never seen this before. I didn't know how it was going to work out. Yeah, it was a very cool thing. I want to thank Carly for giving a subscription to Kalaska. I appreciate that for the gift sub. And welcome in Kalaska and Carly. And so yeah, I thought that this was really interesting. I wish that the game was a little better, and on the Caps side, I wish that Ovechkin actually played in this game. You know, those are a couple of things that I think would have made it a little bit more exciting. It was cool because I had two screens up, and I was watching the game in real time on both, you know, the real feed and the cartoon feed. But I thought that it was pretty exciting. I like how you have your cat, and I've got my cat here as well.
Mine was trying to cross the keyboard.
I know mine was a second ago. So, but yeah, so it was a really fun presentation of the game, and I think that was probably my favorite part of this game. One, you know, thought that I'll ask CP3 as I go to his thoughts on it. You know, some people thought that we may have pulled the goalie too soon. You know, we were sort of gaining some momentum in that. You know, 17:49 is not that soon. It's not like we did it with like 10 minutes left or anything crazy. But some people wanted them not to do that and thought that maybe we could have still found a way, or you know, gotten more zone time before pulling the goalie. What is your thought, Carol, on the pulled goalie situation?
Well, this always depends on how the game is going, and we've seen some. I forgot who was it. A couple of years ago, he was pulling a goalie with like 5 minutes left, and it was working out in his favor. I think it was Vancouver or one of the Canadian teams that had a coach that was pulling the goalie early with like 5 minutes when they were down, and it worked to their advantage. So, I mean, you're always going to have folks, you know, say they should have, would have, but I didn't really get a chance to see the game. So I feel, you know, with 3 minutes left, you're down, and, you know, you get the zone time. Why not? You know, you get something going, you get a tip in, an ugly deflection, something, you know, you can't just stand pat. Like you said, you know, one of my favorite names, because Zibanejad, he always has the Caps number. So, I mean, they had to do something to try to, you know, get that push like we've seen them do in the past, and we've seen them do recently as this week, you know, down, and were able to push back and win in overtime, in the shootout fashion, or overtime, I believe. So, I mean, I really don't have a problem with it, but I know most, you know, the Caps fans probably would.
Yeah. So C4, what are some of your thoughts on because I know that you watched the animated version of it, your thoughts on that, and as well as the pulled goalie and the game overall?
Yeah, the animation was kind of fun to watch. I didn't actually watch all of it. I watched like the first period, but it was kind of fun to watch. I'm going to actually sit and watch the whole thing at some point. A little disappointed with the slow start, but again, it's been the pattern the last few games. As far as pulling the goalie when we did, I mean, we were only down by 1. So I'm kind of two minds. I agree with CP3 that, you know, if you're in the zone, if you know you're going to be in the zone and you've got the good solid zone time and you're staying in the zone, why not? But on the other hand, you know, I guess it just depends on how the game flow is going at any given time when you pull them. Makes me nervous when they pull him that early, but I understand why they do. So, so I'm kind of two minds of it. If you know you're going to be able to control the offensive zone and stay in the offensive zone, why not? You're only down 1, maybe you can get 2. So, but the game overall, I mean, in the end, again, it was another one of those too little too late. They made it interesting. It was still fun to watch. I don't think they ever gave up on anything. So, that's pretty much it. But like I said, I'm looking forward to watching the rest of that animated game. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I think it's important to have different things in hockey to try to appeal to different markets, especially, hockey isn't as popular as some of the other sports, in this country.
Yeah.
But I think, everyone on this call agrees that we all think that it's one of the best sports, so we just kind of got to get it in front of more people in some ways. And so whatever does that, especially for the youth, to try to get them into it. Because I think all of us kind of got into it when we were younger, and I think that helped in wanting to do it. Carol, any final thoughts on this game before we get into the Buffalo game?
Just that I agree with you. If Ovi was there, I think it would definitely been a different game, different outcome, because they know once Ovi isn't there, their whole defensive mindset changes, and the players aren't able to step up and make those plays. Then it's going to be a long night.
Yeah, we were missing him on the power play, I think, on that night game.
Yeah,
especially on the power play, because they take away all time and space when he's not there. When he's there, they're always more cautious because they know if he gets open, it's 9 out of 10 going in the back of the net. So with him not there, they take away time and space, and they're a lot more aggressive on the penalty kill, and that stifles the penalty kill. So especially with John Carlson still not there, a lot of fans don't like him and yada yada yada, but he's also a key piece of that power play that they've been missing, that a lot of folks aren't talking about. There's a reason why they're having some of the scoring issues and defensive issues, even though folks say he's a liability defensively. He's still solid in my book. He has never been a liability in my book, and we're seeing what happens when he's not out there, honestly.
Right. He does push the momentum. While we're talking about John Carlson, because I think this is a good segue, I'm going to take a break before the game for just a second, because there is talk that he's going to come back this week. And I shared earlier this week with both Gil and Carol about what he had suffered, because they actually never announced it, as they often don't do with hockey injuries. But it did come out this week. Tariq El-Bashar did talk about he suffered a fractured skull and a severed temporal artery. I mean, this is a really
and lived to tell the tale,
right? And wants to continue to play hockey. It's just it's really incredible. I mean, this happens in almost any other sport that person's retired. I don't even care if it's football, whatever. It's really impressive, because at the time we thought it maybe chipped his ear. There was all these prevailing thoughts, but none of them that I ever read were this serious. Although we knew that because, it was months and months and months, it had to be more than just part of an ear flying off, that it had to be something, more serious. But there's talk that he's going to return this week. I know that we're pretty close still in the standings. There's a chance that we make the final playoff spot, but there's also a question of, is there really a reason to bring him back this season, or do you just rest him for the rest of it and you kind of, do a mulligan and you bring him back? But so I'll ask each person, in this group what their thoughts are on it. I'll start with you, Gil. Do you think it's worth bringing him back for the last couple of games of the season, or do you think that it's better to rest him?
Well, this was actually a brief discussion on the episode, but yeah, I'll go ahead and say what I said then. I'm of two minds. I don't know if it's worth the risk, but at the same time, even with the playoff chase in front of them, or increasingly being out of reach, you still kind of want to see him out there just to make sure that he's still got it. Let him get some games in. Maybe let him wait a few more games just to make sure he's all right. Maybe when the games get a little more meaningless, and there's not as much risk and the intensity goes down a little bit, let him get a few games in. But I don't know, an injury like that, you kind of don't want to see him take an unnecessary risk, and because he's a defenseman, and one of your jobs as a defenseman is to block shots. And if a shot goes the wrong way, he could face the very same injury again. Nobody wants to see that.
Yeah, I think I'm of that mindset too. But Carol, what are some of your thoughts?
I kind of disagree because no matter if they clear him to be healthy, he's recovered, and they said he's good to go. The longer he stays off the ice, the more it's going to get in his head. So then you're going to have a whole off season with him doubting himself and thinking about it instead of getting a chance to get out there and get hit. Just like, when players in the NFL say, with the ACL, Chase Young is a prime example. He rehabbed for, did everything right, but he wasn't sure of himself until he got out there on the field that he was able to do it. So it's a mental thing along with the physical thing. And he's done this his whole life. He knows the risk. If he's willing to go back out there, if they said he's cleared, I say let him go out there and play, because if you have a whole off season to think about that, that's the last thing that happened during that season that you remember getting hit in the head with a puck. Those things are going to mess with you, in your head during the off season, and that's going to create more doubt in his mind. And I feel make it harder for him to come back when the season starts next year. So I say at least get some games under his belt, even if it's meaningless or if it means something. And if they do make the playoffs and he's healthy and, goes out there with no problems, it's a plus for the team. And if they don't make the playoffs, it's a plus for him because he has the confidence he can go back out there and then go into the offseason training regular, like nothing happened, and try to move forward like most athletes do after, especially an injury of this magnitude that could have cost him his life.
So one other question, Carol, and something we have to think about it. We're still not cap compliant if we have to bring him back. So we got to dump somebody to be able to bring him.
That damn NHL salary cap.
Right, salary cap. So the obvious person that I've been thinking is Mantha, that you waive him. And if somebody picks up his salary for us, it does us a favor. If they don't, then he gets sent down to Hershey. He hasn't been playing so incredible, that, I don't think we'll lose a lot by losing him. Would you be okay with potentially just losing Mantha for maybe nothing to bring Karlsson back? Does that change your opinion on this?
Not really. Like I said, I haven't really watched, but I've, checked out, Mantha's being a healthy scratch, and coaches haven't really been happy with his play. So, I mean, that's you have to move on, and we would have loved for him to excel and get a extension and play well, but like I said before, in football, potential has gotten a lot of coaches fired, and you can see the potential, but it doesn't come through. He's had 3 seasons now with us?
3.
Yeah,
the
3, I
proof
think.
is in the pudding, baby.
3.
Yeah. I am happy to see on the other side of it, a player that we had kind of dealt for him thrive. I was, upset that we lost him. We liked him for a while. Things kind of fell apart for him in Detroit. But now he's with the Blues and he's starting to play very well. So I wish him success. I wonder if we should have ever done that trade, or if we should have just gotten him some additional help, or I don't know what the answer was, but he obviously we lost on that trade in my mind.
He needed a new environment.
Right. That's probably too. But I liked Verana, and so I am happy that he's finally on his legs, because he got sent down to the minor league and things were just not looking good for him. So I am happy for him at least. C4, your thoughts on whether we activate John Karlsson, and is it worth getting rid of Mantha for him?
I'm kind of with Gil, and actually I just saw something, I think it was on Instagram. They're targeting March 23rd for him to come back.
Yeah.
So that would be Thursday's game against Detroit. Personally,
Chicago.
I think it's Chicago. I'm sorry. Thank you. I get like Gil, I'm of two minds. I think it's still a little early. I think my mindset would be different if we actually had a legit, we are definitely going to make the playoffs, but right now it's so up in the air.
I wish we had won 2 more games this week, because it would have made the decision easier. If we were in the playoff hunt, I feel like
if we're definitely in the playoff hunt, bring him in.
But what
if they do bring him in, they can't do him at full throttle. It's just you know,
you
I
got to put
want
him
to
in the
see.
third pairing. You got to work him in
You
a way that
have to work him back in. You
Yeah,
just can't
there's no
throw
way
him
he's
in.
not gonna play any 25, 26, 27 minutes
Right.
from the get-go. There's no way.
And people can't expect that. We as fans can be, yay, we're all excited he's back, but we can't expect him to be what he was before this injury for a while. He's still got to rebuild. He's still rebuilding. He's still rehabbing. You know, skull fractures. I mean, you tear an artery, you're lucky you're alive when you know, if you get to the hospital, right? Especially temporal, femoral, any of the major arteries. So, I mean, that's what makes me nervous. You know, like Gil said, he gets hit the wrong way, whatever, it busts open again. He may not survive it. You know, he may not get lucky a second time. I was there that night he got hit, and I tell you, I'm not lying when I said it took almost 15 minutes for them to get all the blood off the ice, because they not only where he fell, but the whole trail back to the bench. So,
yeah,
If they,
I want to see him back. You know, again, it would be a lot easier if we were definitely in the playoff hunt. I think, though, I do think he should come in and play a few games, but not the 20, 25 minutes he's been getting. Give him 10, 15 minutes maybe, and let him work his way back up.
right. Because what a lot of people don't realize is it's not necessarily where the injury is, it's that he's out of shape now because he's not played for 3 months, you know? It's
Yeah, and that's the other issue.
And that's so the fitness level, you know, yes, you can practice, but there's nothing like in-game, you know, situations.
Exactly.
All right, I think we've talked about this enough. Carol, any final thoughts on it before we go back to the game stuff?
I was just saying, if the doctors have cleared him, that means he should be 100% ready to take a hit and, you know, not have any other effects. So that's the thing, like I say, with their confidence, if he doesn't get back out there, and those type of thoughts are going to creep in his mind, and that's going to make him have doubt. And that's when you do get hurt, when you hesitate or have doubt when you're on the ice, on the court, or on the field. So I think it's more of a, you know, more of a mental thing. And what if, you know, he goes on the bottom defensive pairing, but it gives the team a spark seeing him come back, and then they get a push to go to the playoffs. I mean, I know that's fairy tale and optimistic like I like to be, but hey, we've seen it happen before in hockey.
Sure.
Yeah.
Stranger things.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna run to the restroom real quick, but while I do that, Gil, can you break down the next game, and then you guys can chat about it for a second, and then I'll be right back.
Sure.
All right.
So the very next game was the very next day, a night rather, against Buffalo Sabres back at home. And this one had a happy ending, though, again, it didn't start off very well. Another slow start, fell behind 8:50, 9-10 minutes in the first period. They're already behind 2-0. And then Oshie got them back at 10:03 on the power play, 2-1. But by the end of the third, they were down 3-1, no scoring in the second period. And then the Caps really woke up in the third and started with Kuznetsov 92 seconds in, appropriately enough, scoring 92 seconds in, his 12th of the year. Alexeyev and Oshie on the assists on that one. Oshie had a great game this one. Buffalo jumped ahead again 4-2 a few minutes later, and then Ovechkin got a goal 10 minutes 30 seconds in, make it 4-3. Caps got a late power play, and Tom Wilson got his 8th, assisted by Backstrom, to knot it up with just over a minute left to play. They went to overtime, no goals. If I'm thinking right, this was I'm thinking of something else. Where they had a late power play in the overtime, but I don't think they did.
No.
So it goes to the dreaded shootout, and Kuznetsov does his 40 deke move and scores. I think, let's see, Lindgren was the one in the goal for this game, and he was outstanding in the shootout from the second period on. Lindgren was outstanding. I think he had a little shakiness, little signs of rust, not playing as much, but once he shook that off, he really barreled down, and he was great from the second period on, especially in the shootout. TJ Oshie put them ahead, and then Lindgren stopped Tage Thompson for the final shot to seal the deal. Yeah, Caps get the 2 points, much needed 2 points, although they probably would have rather have won the 2 points outright as opposed to going into overtime in the shootout. But, you know, hey, at this point in this time of the race, 2 points is 2 points. It was a great game for them from about halfway on. Can't really put your finger on why they're starting so slow, but you know, their compete level has been great ever since 10 games ago, I think. And they came back, they fought hard, and well, I mean, Lindgren saved them, I think, the second half of the game, but the offense came awake, thank goodness. And Buffalo's defense has been kind of leaky all year. That kind of helped. So, but I mean, the Caps really showed some fight in this game, and it was great to see. It was a fun game to watch, as they all have been. But I really love the compete level in this one, and giving everybody hope. I mean, if the Caps can play like this, their final 10 or 11 games, I mean, it's looking bad right now, but I definitely think they got a shot if they can keep up this kind of effort. You never know. If they win out, they've still got a good shot. They're not eliminated yet.
Yeah, they're still in it.
Yeah.
This Buffalo game, I saw the slow start, the back-to-backs. They've been killing me with these back-to-backs. I think last week they had back-to-backs that wasn't even 24 hours apart. And then they had another, difficult back-to-back. In Buffalo, they're on the rise, young talent, all the draft picks that they've got is finally starting to come together. So they jumped on them early. We have an older team, but we saw the second period, pretty much stalemate. And, they're an older team, so it takes them a little while to get going with these young guys ripping and running up and down the ice. And, it was good to see them come back. And Kuzi with his shootout style, I love it. That me and Robbie had this conversation last year with Oshie and Kuzi, with those two being so proficient at the shootout that, the way they set it up, they can basically just like in this game, 2-0, boom, it was over. But how do y'all feel about his, as Gil said, his 40 deep shootout goal? I love it because it's beautiful to watch because the goalie's sitting there like, what the hell is he going to do? And then he just shoots it out of nowhere, and it's been working, and it's been beautiful to see. So what do y'all think about the super slow-mo Kuzi shootout style?
I absolutely love it. The first time I saw it was, they were playing Buffalo last year. I was on my way back from Miami. I think it was the end of March last year. And that was the first time I saw it. And we're sitting in this bar in the Atlanta airport, and boom. And it was me and two of my friends. And we just jumped up and started screaming and hollering. And people were looking at us like we were absolutely out of our minds. But I absolutely love it. When he just gets in that zone like that and just kind of does his thing and doesn't think about it and just plays hockey, he's brilliant. And that's like across the board. But I absolutely love that. Absolutely.
I don't like the shootout in general, but this is one of the things that makes it fun to watch. And he's only failed ever since he started doing this move. He's only failed once. So, but yeah, it makes it fun to watch. I think it's great. People complain about it, but there's nothing against the rules. There's only one rule. You move the puck forward, you're good. He's moving the puck forward. Ain't nothing illegal about what he's doing. Nope. And if they can't figure it out,
how are you going to be mad at that? That's great. That's skill. I mean,
yeah.
How are you going to be mad at that?
Now, if he could just do that in the game.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he doesn't have the time or space. But
I mean, with Kuzi, like me and Robbie spoke about last year with him, and some of his difficulties off the ice, he had to gain that confidence back because, when you're doing, I'm not going to get into it. You're doing those things off the ice,
the off ice shenanigans. Yeah, they get in your head.
Yeah, so he has to learn how to play without that vice anymore, and that that's a big transition for a player when he's been, codependent on something in his lifestyle. So I think now we're starting to see him gain his confidence and get back to where he was, while he was, So it takes time. Luckily, he was able to recover and, get back to the style and play that we're used to seeing. So I love seeing it. I wish he reminds me a little bit of Alexander Simmons. Had all the
Yes.
potential. He could have, taken that next step, but it was something always holding him back. Maybe it was the same thing. I don't know. But, I saw the same thing in him. But Kuzi, he's been able to, bounce back from that and get back to the superstar that we know he can be without that.
Right. Exactly.
I was so happy that I decided to turn this game on. So I was, putting the kids to bed. I was debating going back and forth. I was obviously monitoring the score. And that's kind of how you have to be when you're a parent of 2 under 5. Like, you're lucky to get the third period. And, I wasn't all that excited to, jump into a game where we're losing pretty badly, but I got the scoring update. And I was like, man, we're within a goal. There's just under 10 minutes left. We can really do this. Let me turn it on. Let's root them on. And I didn't even turn on any of the TVs. I just watched it on my phone. And sure enough, we get that goal. We tie the game up. And I was so happy they swapped who went first in this scenario, because I feel like they always start with TJ Oshie, right? And then they put Kuzi in. And they decided, they both been missing, they both had missed their previous shootout attempts on the last one they did. So why not just flip them? Just change something small, same 2 guys, but let's see what happens. And it worked, so credit to the coaches for making that small adjustment. And it gives Kuzi.
We talked about that last year, Robbie. We had a good little debate about that, about switching it up when, because we know Oshie is very proficient. And then, but if you have Kuzi in front of him and he scores, and then the other team doesn't, then the pressure automatically goes to the other team when you got Oshie coming up number 2. And like I said, this Buffalo game is a prime example. Like you said, it shut them down in 2-0, game over. So it's funny how we talked about it last year. The coach might have been listening, Robbie. Who knows?
Who knows? That's funny.
And Lindgren stopped 2 of their top shootout guys easily. So
yeah, that debate is so tough. Which goalie should they go for, and so I thought there's people. I do want them to give Chucky more chances down the stretch. I think that maybe maybe it was part of the scheduling that it just wasn't able to get him in, because Darcy is still your number 1. You want to give him number 1 reps,
but he's starting to look tired.
Yeah, exactly. So
He's
I think
starting
down the
to
stretch,
look very tired.
And we should want to see what we got from Chucky also, going into future seasons, right? We're in an evaluation period. I obviously, I hope we make the most incredible run from this podcast and all the juju from this, and we make a run like 2018 and we sneak in and we steal Pittsburgh's spot. Wouldn't that be great? I pray for that. But I'm also a realist, and I know that it hasn't been looking good for us. We dealt with a lot of injuries, a lot of adversity. We are a very fortunate fan base. I know the fans get up in arms about not making the playoffs. We've only missed the playoffs 1 time, I believe, in the last 10 years. So we are no other franchises that, a couple of other ones, but it's very rare, and you should appreciate that. And I know that we have a lot of first round exits, but we won a cup. I think in my mind, the next 3 years, I of course always want to win another cup. But it's really about getting Ovechkin to 900, in my mind. Get him to that plateau of 900, something no one's ever done, and you build around him, and you hope you make the playoffs, and you hope you have success as well in that process. But just enjoy the fact that he got to 39, right? Like this week, he's on the verge of having more 40-goal seasons than anyone in history. And so, there's so much to still celebrate about this team. There's so many other teams out there that wish that they were in the situation that we're in, where they're thinking, we're missing the playoffs for the first time in a couple of years. That really sucks. But we still have all this exciting, thing with Ovi, and so I just think that it's important that we, sit back and appreciate where we're at as a franchise. But anyway, I'm happy that they don't put Ovi, first or second in the shootout, because we know that he isn't that great at it. But I love what he brings to the team, and I really wish we had him in that Rangers game, because I feel like we need all the points we can get, because what Gil said on his podcast, which is so true, what people didn't expect is all the teams around us that we have to jump over are also having a tough time right now. None of it's coming easy to any of them. So with that being said, if we got 4 more points this week, we could have made huge jump, right? And so we can't let anything else go, looking ahead. But before we look ahead, let's get into the other 2 games. Gil, hit us with the third game.
Well, real quick before before we do that, I just want to point something out. Hope everybody's looking at my not so pretty face. I got a big smile on it, and I'll tell you why. Because the Pittsburgh Penguins have lost tonight again.
Yes.
They lost to the Senators, and they
yes.
are, as of
To
right
Ottawa?
now,
Oh
to
my
Ottawa.
God.
And they are, as of right now, this moment, they are out of the playoffs. They are out of the last wild card spot.
Yes.
Yes.
And they are only 5 points ahead. So if the Caps can pass them, which it's looking like they might, it's a good shot. So
Yeah.
hope everybody's happy about that. All right. So the next game on the docket was the second home game against St. Louis. This one not as good. Again, another slow start. And in fact, it was pretty bad, this one. First period, not so bad. They only fell behind by 1, 2 minutes in. Sammy Blais, they just reacquired him from the Rangers, I believe, at the trade deadline. Not a bad start for the first period, but then the second period kind of fell apart a bit. The defense got caught flat-footed a couple times. Jordan Kyrou gets his 31st, puts him up 2-0. Kasperi Kapanen, who I'm very surprised the Penguins let go, gets his 10th to make it 3-0 St. Louis. And then Blais again with a second goal of the game makes it 4-0 by the time the second period ends. Caps played a pretty good third period. Looked like they were going to rally. Faravari got his 6th, 5.5 minutes in, and then Backstrom, when they got on the power play, made it 4-2. So it looked like they were going to have a late game rally again, but right after they emptied their net, Braden Schenn closes the door on them. So this one, not so much. I think it's a combination of two things in this game. The Caps had their usual slow start, but St. Louis was more ready to play because they had a really great defensive scheme. If you saw really closely, Caps really didn't get all that many high danger chances unless they had the man advantage. And so that credit to St. Louis's, defensive scheme, because they knew how to play the Caps and they knew what was coming. And they kind of kept them to the outside. Caps actually got 34 shots on net. And credit to the rookie goalie Hofer as well.
He's a big boy. He's like 6'5" or something.
He played
huge.
lights out. Caps didn't get too many high danger chances, but what few chances they did get, he shut the door, and he looked pretty good in that game. So, give St. Louis credit. They played a great game. I won't put it all on the Caps, even though it was another bad start technically. But yeah, St. Louis came ready to play, and I don't know that there would have been 2 points. It would have been nice to take it to overtime, get 1 point. You need all the ones you can, but I mean, I'm not gonna blame the team. I'm not gonna say it was a throwaway game, but I didn't come into this one with too many expectations because St. Louis looked a little hungry. I think they're in the same mode as we are. They got some players who got some stuff to prove. So I'm not too unhappy, even though the result wasn't what we wanted.
All right, so I got to ask Charlene, you were there. So what were your thoughts
there.
of going to the game?
I was there. I had a great time, even though we lost. Met up with another out of town Caps fan, Dave LeBlanc and his wife Megan. Give a shout out to them. It was really nice to see them. But had a really good time. But I tell you, but Gil's right. We did not have a lot of high danger shots. Yeah, we had 39 shots on goal. And everyone's like, oh, we should have more goals than this with 39 shots. I'm like, yeah, but look at the shots we're taking. They're from the outside. They're right into his chest. We're not getting up and around, and and I tell you, we couldn't get under him either, because I mean, when he went down, his pads were there. I mean, he's quick. He's a big guy, but he was really quick. So it was really hard to shoot on him. I mean, and then of course their defense was all over us, like white on rice. But I mean, the boys gave effort. They tried. Yes, it was disappointing, but I think they left it on the ice at the end of the day. That last empty netter, though, was really a fluke. Somebody bopped a long pass way over everybody's head, and Schenn just got to the puck before anybody else did and knocked it in. And I think that actually happened, I think, in the Rangers game too. I think the same thing happened. just knocked it way over. Somebody knocked it way over our heads, way down the ice, and they just happened to get to it first. So not much you can do about any of that. And I'm not putting any of these goals on Kemp. I think it was Kemper was in net. The only one that was kind of weird was the one at the end of the second period. I think Blaze's goal in the second period, where it kind of got stuck in the net and nobody was sure where it went.
Yeah, it was Darcy Kemper, and it's just a tough thing. It's the deflating, goals in the first 5 minutes of the game. It just keeps happening, and it just sets a really hard tone, and it's hard to get a game going at that point. Carol, what are some of your thoughts on this one?
I didn't really get a chance to check this one out. I'm kind of agreeing with Gil. This is one of those throwaway games, like you say, that they were a little bit more hungrier. They got off to the faster start. Caps couldn't get any traction, and it's one of those games you just got to throw away. I want to talk about this Minnesota game. That's the game I want to talk about. Yeah,
sounds good. All right, Gil, break down the scoring, and then we'll get CP3's thoughts on that one.
Okay, well, all right. So first period again, all opponents, all Wild. Matt Boldy, 50 seconds in, breaks it open, and then 4 minutes later gets another one. First two of his three, 2-0 Wild at the end of the first. And then Captain brings
and real quickly, Mojo was the primary assist on both of those goals.
Yeah.
We all noticed that, including our guest, since that was the one game we discussed, that he was the key element in that goal. That was not in both goals, actually. He assisted on them both.
Yep.
But that definitely did not go unnoticed. Second period, 5:34 in, Caps get a power play. Captain patented off a shot, makes it 2-1. And then the Wild jump up 3-1 on, so it was Ryan Hartman with a point shot, and Ryan Reeves at literally the very last millisecond gets the blade of his stick on it and deflects it past Lindgren for the 3-1 lead. So we go on to the third, and Brandon DeHaan is the one who gave the Wild the game winner. I'm just going to talk about the scoring, but something happened here in between that goal and the rest of the game that I think we're all probably going to discuss. But after this certain thing happened, Caps got a little fired up, I think, and it showed. Ovechkin again on the power play, 12:33. Caps were on the comeback trail again, and then Boldy got his third with the hat trick. But I don't think the Caps weren't really done after this, even though it felt like a dagger. But the effort level was still there for sure. And so Strome got a disputed goal. It took them forever to figure out what was going on with this, but they finally decided there was no goaltender interference, which I don't know who saw that. But he made it 5-3. But they just and the Caps were really pressing after that. They pulled the goalie again. They got some good quality chances. They just ran out of time in this one, and it was another good effort for the second half. But I like really seeing how they were really fired up in the third.
Yeah,
this game kind of frustrated me on the angle in the third period. That, to me, dirty hit on Kuzi, and they didn't call it, and then give TJ Oshie the instigator, which puts him in a pin, which puts Minnesota on the power play. Now I feel like that was the swing in momentum right there, because you've already lost Kuzi to injury. Now Oshie's in the box and with the 10-minute misconduct, and then you're giving them a power play. So to me, that was the determining factor in this game. Alan May said it best on the post game that they should have called it a major. Therefore, they could have reviewed it if they didn't see it, and then they could always reduce it if it wasn't. But this was a blatant screw up by the refs on this one. I felt changed the momentum and cost the Caps this game. I know I never blame the referees for a loss, but they always have an influence, and I feel like this was a instance where them missing a call and not doing a common sense thing by giving it a major cost the Caps in this game. Even though they started slow, gave up a goal 50 seconds in, they were battling back against a solid team that played defense, and they still got 3 goals on. So I feel like that is what fueled this loss, and hopefully it will fuel them as long as Kuzi's okay and is back in the lineup, and will give them something to, like I say, push for, to give them something to, give them that extra push that they need. Like you say, with Pittsburgh losing and looking at their schedule, the games they play of the upcoming teams for the remaining of the schedule, it's possible they can, get hot against some of these teams that they've had, good records against and make the playoffs. But this could be, something that could, fuel them to finally get together and start playing 60 minutes of hockey instead of 45 and 50 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Agreed.
yeah, it's really disappointing. Just because this game has such potential. But I'll be totally honest, I had a really awesome day out with my kid instead of watching this game. I had an opportunity to watch this game, and they had a Lego event, and I was like, you know what, I'll spend the day with him. And as much as I love hockey, I figured I'd watch it on a replay if it was a good enough game. And I'm disappointed because I was like, I did score check, obviously, but I was like, these are the games you got to find a way. This one in the Rangers game, we get the 4 points in these games. Again, I hate to harp on it, especially with Pittsburgh losing tonight. We'd be right there, so.
Got to the X factor. Fleury was in net, and he was standing on his head.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
I love
it.
I have to give Ovechkin a lot of credit though. So, some stats that I wanted to throw out there. Ovechkin really owns this arena. So only 12 players in history have ever recorded a point in the first 12 games in an arena, in a road arena, mind you, right? So with that, being said, he's been able to get so many goals in there, and so many against Fleury. In fact, he's played more games against Fleury than any other goalie in his career, and he's also scored more against him than anybody else. So, I these are just the things that even in a loss, I do want to remind Caps fans of, because they are pretty historic numbers, crazy numbers. And we're just kind of amazed at what he's able to do. And so I just wanted to put that out there. But he has 15 goals and 10. No, wait. No, it's more than that, right? It was I guess it was 16 goals and 10 assists and 26 points, I think is what it is. The tweet that I saw was actually after the first goal, because technically he had the record at that point, but then he tacked one on, just why not? So I'm so proud of him and his compete level, and I just love that the Caps don't give up in a game. They continue to fight through, but I am disappointed, obviously, in the game. Charlene, your quick thoughts on this one, and then I do want to look at the schedule ahead.
Okay. Yeah, again, disappointing first period, second period, and then, Ryan Reeves annoys me anyway, and so we won't go there. But yeah, that hit on Kuzi, just, I think that started to light a fire under them. I think, unfortunately, again, a little too little, a little too late. They just ran out of time. But if they can, and it frustrates me that they get this momentum going in the third period, and they're going and going and going, and then they can't carry it over to the next game and just bring it into the first period of the next game. And that's just been very frustrating for me. And I don't know if it's because they put all this effort and they lose and they're kind of like, oh, okay, here we go again. Or, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah. But I mean, all in all, I'm not disappointed with their effort. I'm disappointed we're always trying to come from behind, which is a hard thing to do. But I think
I just wish the effort was there in the first period that we see. Right.
If they can keep that momentum going in the third and bring it into the first of the next game and keep it going, then we'll be in a lot better shape. But, again, I'm not giving up on this team. They are, whether they make the playoffs or not, I am not giving up on these guys.
That's why I like this hockey group here. The four of us plus Anna, that we're going to watch them all the way to the end. Me not watching them, on Sunday had nothing to do with the Capitals or my fandom or my love of them. But and we will all be there to root them on until the end. And that's the important thing about being a fan, is through thick and thin.
It frustrates me that the people I was with at St. Louis, two of them left. Well, they didn't leave. They went down to the sports bar before the third period and didn't come back to watch the third period. And then they're saying, well, we may not go, we have tickets already for April 2nd. Well, we may not go to that game. We may just sell our tickets. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Gil wants to go.
Yeah, I might, if they go, I'll hit you up.
Yeah, nice. So I do want to point out, Gil pointed out the good news of tonight. Florida did win, and that's why the Pittsburgh's out of a spot. So I do want to point out that now with that, the Islanders have 80 and Florida has 81. Is that correct, Gil?
I believe that is correct. Florida now holds the final wild card. Well, the placings you have correct. I think I don't know if they've, what I'm looking at has taken into account tonight's results, but I see 80 points for the Islanders and 79 for the Panthers.
Right, but I don't think that they've accounted for tonight's game.
I don't think they have either, but the placings are correct. And Islanders hold the first wild card. Panthers now hold the second. Pittsburgh's 1 point behind. Caps are tied with Ottawa, 5 points behind Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so it's all very close, and so I just wanted to put that out there. Yeah, so it's 79, 78, and so the Islanders are at 80. So that's the important thing is to look at. We now are chasing Florida, not Pittsburgh, and then Ottawa just jumped into a tie with us with that win. They now have 73 points too, so that's why they fought so hard in that game, because they're trying to claw in for these last spots as well. So there's a lot of teams, bunched up there. Buffalo has 72. So I mean, there's it's going to be a really exciting last couple of weeks, which is all that you can really hope for as a hockey fan. So with that, let's talk about the upcoming schedule for the Capitals. It's a busy one this upcoming week. We've got a Columbus game at 7 on Tuesday, March 21st, and on Thursday, March 23rd. There's another 7 o'clock game against Chicago. Those are both home games, and then on Saturday we go to the dreaded Pittsburgh, and it's an 8 o'clock start on the Saturday game. I will already be in California, so it'll be a 5 o'clock start for me. It's going to be interesting. For sure. I'm going to let each one of you guys pick one of those 3 games to talk about, just for the sake of timing, and that way we can switch over to XFL talk. So we got Columbus, we got Chicago, we got Pittsburgh. Carol, since it's our 7 years, I'm going to let you pick first which game that you want to do. Which game do you want to talk about?
I guess I'll take the Penguins game. Got to. You mentioned that they're on a downswing right now. They're out of the playoffs. Ahead of us. So it'll be even better to see, where we stand during that game, and get a win against them to push them further down and to raise us up would be a lovely thing. Hopefully we'll get some players back. You said Carlson was supposed to be back on the 23rd, which is the Thursday game. So that'll hopefully be his second game back, and we can see what he's looking like. And like I said, hopefully it can be the spark that gets this team going in the right direction. And has anyone heard any word on Kuzi? I haven't seen any news or anything about it.
I've not heard anything yet.
Last I heard, he was day to day.
Yeah. And that's probably all they were going to say up until the day of, right? Because they keep a lot of cards in their thing. So Wednesday at Colorado is where the Pittsburgh plays next. They've lost 4 games in a row. And then after that, they play on Thursday at Dallas. So that's a 9 o'clock start. So it's going to be interesting to see those 2 teams as the next teams that they have to go on that road swing before coming back. So I just wanted to give people a little taste of setting that game up. All right, so I'm going to let C4 get the next pick between the Columbus and Chicago game. Which do you want?
I'm going to take Chicago because there's a chance I'll be at that game.
Oh, good.
So, and also I'm planning to go to practice on Wednesday. So if there's an update on Kuzi, I can let y'all know. But there's a chance I'm going to Chicago. I really want to beat Chicago. I think we can beat Chicago. They're sort of in their middle of their retool, rebuild, fire sale thing. So, but like I said, if we can keep the third period momentum going into the first period of the next game, and I think, but the outcome's going to come, Columbus always plays us hard. So I think it's going to be an interesting, we clobbered them 7-3 the first time we played them. So Chicago maybe wanting a little payback, but I think it'll be a fun game to watch.
Yeah, that was the really cool game where Ovechkin, hits, milestone, gets a hat trick.
Yes.
So, so it'll be interesting to see how they respond a little bit to that. All right. Real quickly, Gil, you get the last game, Columbus. What are your thoughts on that one?
Well, Columbus is literally sitting at the bottom of the standings for the whole league. So I'm not going to be down on my team. I love their compete level, but they cannot start slowly in this game. They cannot. They must bury this team early. And this is one of those games. I don't care if it's 3-0 or 6-0 or 10-0, but they have got to get off to a great start if they're as serious as they say about wanting to make the playoffs. And I think even if they don't score the first 5-10 minutes, as long as they come out with that effort and really clamp down and play from their base, which is from their own blue line out against Columbus, because they don't have much of an offense and their defense can be very, very porous. So I think they really need to jump on that, make some stuff happen, and just get out to that lead and then do whatever they can to hang on to it. There is no reason why they should not come out of this with 2 points in regulation.
Absolutely not.
All right. Well, I really appreciate all you guys' time. Unfortunately, that's going to do it for our cap segment. But C4, thank you so much for being a part of it. You were
always fantastic.
A pleasure. And if you are able to go to that game and want to take some pictures or whatever, you can always send that over and we can always share those on the podcast page as
Absolutely.
well. Especially if we get a W, we would love to do that. And Gil, thank you as always for being a podcast partner, for over these 7 years, over a big chunk of that. And I appreciate it. I really hope that everyone goes and checks out the latest podcast. Check it out on our podcast partners button or look for the Power Play Point podcast on all different podcast platforms. But thank you both so much. And hopefully we'll have you both back on maybe in 2 weeks when we're back for our season 8 premiere.
You're welcome, and happy anniversary. It's awesome. 7 years. That's great.
Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
Thanks again,
Thanks.
Robbie.
Nice to see you, Carol.
All right.
Good evening.
Good night.
All right. And with that, I'm going to switch up a couple of my graphics here, and we're going to switch over into our DC Defenders talk. And we're going to bring in our special guest, Dujanay.